Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Slant 3D podcast, the show about 3D printing and our place inside the industry. Today, we're going to talk about Nano Dimension and desktop metal fighting, the H2D 3D printer from Bambu Lab, and then running through, of course, your questions and updates here inside of Slant 3D around Teleport and Tangled. But it's probably going to be a little bit shorter show because my face sounds like this. But before that, let's go ahead and pay the bills.
This episode is brought to you by Teleport. Teleport is our 3D print-on-demand app. You can connect any e-commerce store to it, and we will print and ship items directly to your customers for you. This allows new 3D printing businesses to grow and existing 3D printing businesses to expand. You have access to hundreds of 3D printers instantly for free. All you have to do is upload a model, and whenever you get an order, we will print and ship that item directly to your customer for you. So you can focus on creating amazing products or learning to take care of your customers even better. So check out Teleport today at slantpod.com. That's slantpod.com. The link is down in the description.
All right, so first piece of news. Court orders Nano Dimension to complete desktop metal acquisition. The Delaware Court of Chancery has ordered Nano Dimension to move forward with its acquisition of desktop metal. This is per TCT. The trial was held earlier this month. The court has said they should do it. Blah, 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 blah. So here's the situation, all the things. The Nano Dimension said they were going to buy desktop metal. That got held up because an activist investor basically took over Nano Dimension. And now it's slowing up. So desktop metal, who is running out of money very quickly, is suing Nano Dimension to finish the deal before they back out of it completely, is what it looks like. So, but in that suit, the court has said, oh, Nano Dimension should finish the order. But here's the thing. I believe Nano Dimension can now appeal it. This week's court order could signal the end of the saga that has been rumbling on for nearly 3 years. Nano Dimension's bid to become a major player in the AM industry started with it acquiring a significant share of Stratasys and then going after that. It states that the company intends to move expeditiously towards closing the merger as soon as possible while continuing to service customers. So, based on this court deal, Nano Dimension should finish the acquisition of desktop metal, but Nano Dimension can fight it again or find something else, or there's ways around it. If they don't want to finish the deal, they don't have to finish the deal. There's ways to get around it, but it's fights that go on. Next piece of news. Formlabs takes on injection molding with tougher resin and speedy curing. Okay, I don't have the story on this. We pulled this headline because I just want to kind of discuss this concept in general. Formlabs taking on injection molding is a completely terrible action to take. 3D printing is not injection molding. So here's the thing. Our company, Slant 3D, did mass production for years and still does. But we knew that it was a dead end when we first started it, because mass production, if you want to look at mass production, if you want to become injection molding, look at the injection molding industry. The margins are 3% net at the end of the year. Every injection molding company is going broke. And to make 3D printing compete with injection molding is ridiculous, because then you just end up building a really expensive injection molding machine that is a bunch of 3D printers, or a really big 3D printer that cranks out lots of parts. And you get the advantages of 3D printing from geometry, but those aren't enough to make people swap over from injection molding. So you hurt your margins, you create a product that is not highly differentiated, and yeah, it's just a bad situation. You're accelerating commoditization. The reason we no longer really focus on this is because we believe that there's a higher value in replacing other components of the industry, which are shipping, warehousing, and the manufacturing itself. But those are the three things that go into getting a product out into the world. But 3D printing is able to print an item at the printer that's closest to the customer. It is able to store that item digitally until a customer actually buys it, and it's actually able to make that item. So rather than focusing on just the manufacturing tier of creating a product, we focus on all three of those tiers, so that as it commoditizes down to the full margins of all three of those industries. So shipping has, the manufacturing has 3% net, the shipping has 5% net, and the warehousing has 10 or 15% net. We combine those all, and inside of 3D printing, we provide the same value, the same item at the same cost, but have a 20% net margin at the end of it all, so it's sustainable. But That's not what Formlabs is doing. Formlabs is trying to make a 3D printing injection mold machine, which is, I think, a losing strategy because you're going down the realm of commoditization that injection molding is in. Anyway, okay, the next news. The Bambu Labs, or Bambu Lab released their H2D machine this week. I haven't seen it up close. We didn't do a review of it. I didn't get one in the mail. None of those things. I watched all the reviews that everybody else did. The things I wanted to bring up on this. The execution of the launch was excellent. Every single video from every single 3D printing YouTuber came out at the same moment. And that's really tough to do. And I don't think there's a lot of straggler ones coming out. So Bambu did a great job of the launch. But this product, as a product, I'm not enamored with. I don't know what it's for. I get it. It's a laser cutter and a regular cutter and a 3D printer all in one. Whoopity-doo. Number one, you just tripled the complexity of the device. You've increased the level of contamination inside of the device. And you've increased the amount of skill required to use the device. So admittedly, it's an expensive machine, so it's for pro users. But some people were calling this like the new flagship. I don't think it's a new flagship. I think the P1P is still the flagship device from Bambu. And this one is another version. This is large format, dual nozzle. That is the best part of it all. It's bigger and it has dual nozzles, so you can actually make large and functional parts without wasting a bunch of material. But beyond that, this seems to be a continued indication. I don't understand what Bambu Lab is doing with this. I've always understood their previous releases. P1P, okay, cool. High quality, Tesla-like machine that is easy to use and faster than any other machine. Bam, we're taking a beachhead there. We're going to reduce the cost of that machine by getting rid of all the housings and covers and do the P1S. And then we'll do the A1 so that we can ship it affordably and have a really cheap, low-cost one that still uses a lot of our technology. Cool. But then they have this machine, and this doesn't decrease the cost of the machine or radically create new capabilities that have existed before. I think it's a perfectly well-built machine, but it's not groundbreaking. So Bambu Lab is kind of out of ideas, is what it looks like. So their concept is then, okay, let's put more features into our machine. I think they would have had an equally good launch, maybe even a better launch. Well, they do have, if they just went for the machine with dual nozzles, without the laser cutter and the rest of it, because I still consider the laser cutter a gimmick. It can cut through at a half millimeter, or whatever. That's nothing. The value of the machine as a multi-material dual extruder machine is fine. And Bambu Lab's manufacturing acumen and product design acumen are useful right there. But as a device, I don't know what all the hoopla is about, because it's just, it doesn't seem very intentional. It seems, yes, they have their large format offering now. Cool. That's good. That's useful. The laser cutter, no idea what they're doing with that. Because Bambu, in order to continue to grow, they've sold all their machines to all the people. I'm going to bet that their machine sales do not continue to increase at the speed that they have, because they unlocked a new market and have sold to a bunch of people in that new market of people further up the chain who were not as familiar with 3D printing. They started with the nerds and they went up to people who just are kind of competent and want to build stuff. So they opened up that new group of people and they've sold to that new group of people. So their sales go up 1,000x per year. But now they've sold to all those people and there's nowhere else to go because 3D printing is still a hobby and is not going to be a microwave in people's houses. So in order for them to monetize more, they have to start getting into services, which means they need a platform. This laser cutting thing doesn't add value to the platform. There's no way to get a subscription to MakerWorld and do more laser cutting stuff, unless they're going to introduce now a laser cutter and then laser cutting designs on MakerWorld, which is fine, but Laser cutters have also been around for a long time at consumer levels, and they've never taken off. So it is not a growth opportunity in that direction. So ultimately, I have no idea what they're doing. The machine looks fine. Glad they did dual nozzle. Glad they got a bigger format. I'm sure everybody's happy about that. But I don't know what they're doing. It seems like they're getting into the realm of diminishing returns. Okay, let's see here. Okay, that's all that stuff. Now, company announcements. So, you may have heard that my voice is a little bit out of whack. There's been sickness going through the last week or so. It has affected us enough to where, like, Tangled is getting a little bit behind because we just had the folks who do that get out sick. So shipments for Tangled may be slightly delayed, maybe as much as a week here. We were all caught up, and then the weather changed here in Boise, and sickness came. So Tangled shipments may be a little bit slow. If you need your order canceled, let us know, and we'll get that canceled for you. Okay, as far as Tangled goes, Tangled is going to get ramped up because we're adding new team members to Tangled over the next 2 weeks who will increase the rate of production and be assisting with the production of the materials and downspooling of other materials. So that will all be coming here fairly soon. Teleport, no big updates with Teleport. There's been kind of a surge in new orders the last week or so orders might be shipping a little bit more slowly. We were staying consistent at like 2 or 3 days there for a bit, but a decent number of orders are probably knocking up against the 5 business day situation. A few of them, yeah, just because there's kind of a backlog in that we're getting through. But yeah, with Teleport, releases will start happening here fairly soon. We're on the tail end of the bone rebuild that we're doing there. So yeah, is what that is. Okay. Moving on to questions. So, normally we would have a discussion topic and a 3D model review, but like I say, I'm sick, so we're going to cut this podcast a little bit shorter than what we normally do and not go through all of those and just go through questions. Sorry, but it's just going to be harder this time. Okay. Question. Will the new filament selections coming to Tangled be manufactured to the same standards and materials as the black that you offer now? They will not be. The new materials, the new filament selections that are going to be released here in the near term are in partnership with another manufacturer. And that other manufacturer is well known and makes good stuff, and we wouldn't work with them if they didn't. The whole rule of Tangled is that it has to use the material that we use in our print farm. Otherwise, it's not worth our time. So, yeah, it's perfectly reasonable material. Many of the colors that will be coming out will actually be the colors that are used in like Teleport. So, folks have asked for like swatches and sample stuff. That will help enable some of that. So we're going to do a decent amount of that. Yeah. The price reductions on these new materials will not be as significant. Though, since Tangled is not meant to be like a high profitability business, it's a scale business where you just move a bunch of stuff and make a penny off of everything. It will be cheaper through Teleport for these specific brands than through other areas. So we'll start to kind of aggregate brands and just use our economies of scale of purchasing a pallet of this and a pallet of that into Teleport. And the more subscribers we have, the easier it is to do that. So go subscribe. But the pricing of these other materials will be higher just because we're not down at the cost of raw materials. We're down at wholesale cost, which is a very different monster. But yeah, it'll be perfectly good material. Next question. As a 14-year-old with a passion of 3D modeling and 3D printing skills, do you think it would be possible for me to run a good business using Teleport? So, short answer is yes, absolutely. You have, as a 14-year-old, you have one big advantage, which is time. You can design a thing, post it on your store through Teleport, and let it sit there for 3 or 4 years until people discover it, and then until you learn how to market it. You don't have a fuse burning on you. you have the time to learn and to improve. And when you get home from school, you can go and learn how to do a TikTok video to promote your items and that kind of stuff. So you have a huge advantage of time in that you don't have to have another job. You can do teleport in all of your spare time and that kind of stuff. So you have a really, really big advantage over a lot of folks. Your disadvantage is that you don't know anything. You're 14. But that is fixable. All the stuff that you need to build a successful 3D printing business is out there. It's available. So design a product that solves a problem that you know of, or ask your parents or your sister or your siblings or your neighbor or whatever it was of some problem that they need solved. Design a thing for it. Post it on Etsy. Connect it through Teleport. And if you can make a new product listing every day for a month or every week for a year, that's 50 listings. One of them should hit. Literally, you're playing a game of just quantity. Do all the tries and attempts out there. This is universal across the board for any business that you're starting. If you want to start a YouTube channel, you have to do 100 videos before you get one good one. And then if you're making a product, you're probably going to have to build 10 products before you find one that's any good. Here with Teleport and 3D printing, same rule applies. 1 out of 10 will sell and the rest of them don't. But again, you have time to run through all of those attempts. So do it. Use that advantage. Yeah, you're in a really good spot to as a 14-year-old to work on that kind of stuff. Yeah, we've got a number of really young guys on Teleport who are doing quite well. And I've run into young guys with 3D printing companies. There was one guy I knew 4 or 5 years ago. He made a 3D printed insert for Crocs that could turn them into Heelys. So he made a 3D printed brick and had a little wheel that popped up inside of it, and then you could cut out the bottom of a Croc and shove that up in there, and then you had Croc Heelys, which is pretty cool. But he sold a mess of those. Question. There's a lot of evidence that points to you being a great designer and have a keen eye for 3D printed based business ideas. Well, thank you. Why is a better strategy for you to spend time giving advice to other people on how to build a business rather than building it yourself? Is it a long-term strategy? So that's a perfectly reasonable question. Why am I turning into like some kind of guru talking about this stuff? Number one, we got to fill up time on this podcast. But the reason we started like the Slant POD channel of like how to start a business is that Teleport is a platform for starting up 3D printing businesses. So if we can close the gap between what is necessary to create a business and create the thread and the through line and the steps of starting up a 3D printing business, that is good for Teleport. So we are creating content to educate about how to start a business so that ideally a few of those businesses are started on Teleport. So it is a marketing education strategy. If I was doing this full time, if I was educating, if I had a YouTube channel about how to start a 3D printing business, but I didn't actually operate a 3D printing business, that I would consider probably shady. But since the fact that the education about it is kind of it's the marketing expense. It's the marketing amount of time allocated. But it's very much a long-term strategy. Content is always a long-term strategy. So we try to do topics and ideas that are fairly evergreen around the business. And ultimately, Teleport, we know, will be the better option because building a print farm is way more effort than people realize. Everybody thinks it sounds cool to have 10 printers in a garage, but that's a vanity thought because it's not fun. If all 10 of those printers you used all the time, you were basically full-time maintaining the printers, filling up the printers, and all the rest of it. So Teleport is just an easy knob to turn to have all the items fulfilled. So yes, all the business stuff is about how people can create a business with the intention of them moving over to Teleport because we know that Teleport's a really good option for them. And there's so many barriers in the creation of any sort of business. As many of those as we can eliminate or lower, we want to. So, yeah. Question. If modeling my support for 3D print, is there a way to indicate those to Teleport so they will break off, or would the end customer have to do that? It depends. The rule is anything in the STL stays on the part, and generated supports and that kind of stuff is removed. But if you design a support and you just like stamp the word remove on the side of it, the guys will pluck that off and they'll see it in post-processing as it goes out. The bots won't always, but make sure they break off easily and we'll throw the shards in there with you. But having the expectation that the customer removes them shouldn't be the end of the world, so long as they're not wildly difficult supports. But ultimately, I hate to sum that all up, is like it depends. Design the support, hit stamp remove on the side of it, and generally it's fine. Question: how much sales volume would you need to see in order to introduce a CF nylon to teleport? Not a lot. Not a lot. Probably, quite frankly, if someone could be certain of like $1,000 a month, that's worth introducing it. Well, maybe I have to talk to the guys about that. But like the minimum for like a new color is like $1,000 a month, because that's like, okay, a machine loaded continuously with the thing, or a few machines loaded continuously with the thing and always running. This is the deal. We don't want some little random machine that once a week prints a part, because that's just a waste of machinery. So the critical mass for it would be the way we choose new materials right now is we are able to see what the most popular materials are, and what the most popular materials are that we don't have. We have data on that are like not available inside a teleport, and then we just start going through from most popular down to least popular. And CF nylon is not on that list. So if we were just picking a material out of the blue, enough to keep 2 machines busy continuously for 30 days. However many parts that is. I think a machine extrudes like 0.5 kilogram a day. So a kilogram a day, so 30 kilograms of carbon fiber nylon a day, which is about $3,000 of carbon fiber nylon. Ooh, yeah, carbon fiber nylon is really expensive. So it wouldn't be like $1,000. It'd probably be like $5,000. Depending on how we source it or which one we choose. So yeah, 2 machines running continuously for 30 days, whatever that maths out to. What's your opinion on large 3D prints? Does it make sense for certain items, large like 500 millimeters and above? Furniture has a big opportunity. Right now the design is too eclectic, so a lot of furniture brands are not being successful because they just create something too weird that nobody wants. So they do like lobbies and corporate places and that kind of stuff to create these weird 3D printed furnitures. But furniture has a ton of waste in its traditional manufacturing, and 3D printed furniture can be really useful. There's some other places where large format can be really helpful. Again, just in the context of shipping, like being able to produce stuff kind of close to where it belongs reduces a ton of shipping, because large stuff is generally hollow, takes up a ton of space, has no weight, no density. So large format 3D printing can create a much more efficient supply chain. What can Western 3D printer manufacturers do to catch up or surpass Bambu Lab? As it can be hard to match them on price, is the future just going to be Chinese brands with the Western brands obsolete in 10 to 20 years? 10 to 20 years is a really long time. 20 years is a really long time. I think automation's going to catch up here finally. I think we're heading into a golden age of automation. Even prior to the whole AI thing, robotics was starting to sort of stretch into more mainstream, but even now with AI, it just makes it easier to where I think automation... Well, here's the thing. Labor costs have not been the problem for several years. That's not the problem. It is manufacturing expertise. That is the reason so much stuff is made in China. It's manufacturing expertise. They're just as expensive as frickin' any place to manufacture a thing. So automation doesn't really help with that. The Chinese are faster at automating stuff because, again, they have all the factories right close to everybody, and but they know how to build a factory. The Chinese know how to build factories. The U.S., we don't really know how to build factories anymore. Prusa, Ultimaker, Prusa kind of knows how to build a factory, but Prusa Prusa has a lot of conflicting priorities. So they're going to have to learn what their core truth is in order to decide how they're doing all this stuff. And decide how they're going to go about that. It's starting to come out a little bit here. But I mean, like, there's 3D printed parts for their 3D printers. That's all well and good, but it's not scalable in the way that they're doing it. Okay. But as far as competing with the Chinese brands, what Bambu Lab did is primarily a software and mathematics solution. How did they get it going fast? That is deep, deep technical expertise, where they had 5 or 6 PhDs working on the Bambu Lab machine for 2 years, getting it verified and out, and then building it up. The other Chinese manufacturers still have not batched Bambu Lab. So that is just technical expertise. So innovation helps you a ton on all of these things. So innovate. A lot of people said that FDM was kind of done right when Bambu Lab came out. We're like, FDM is as good as it's going to be, and this is what it is. And then Bambu Lab came out. It was much faster and higher quality. But Bambu didn't do anything weird or wacky with FDM. There wasn't a fundamental innovation in it other than the software and control system that a bunch of drone engineers knew how to build. So I don't know what the innovation is from a 3D printing perspective on like an FDM machine. But there's other technologies, other ways of scaling up, other business models to pursue. Whenever competing with somebody, the trick is to not compete with them. If there's an established player who's doing well and doesn't have an obvious flaw in how their product operates, don't compete with them. Go find some other SKU that they cannot address or will not address and counterposition yourself to them. Right now, Prusa is the open source, build it yourself, DIY, modifiable kind of brand. Tune it up, get what you want out of it. Voron could have done that. Voron, if they had survived as a company, could have gone after Prusa in that realm. And then Bambu is the high-end kind of consumer-style printer. Not even high-end, consumer-style printer that requires no effort to get rolling. Okay, so that's a lot of talking. I don't know if there was a final answer in that. I don't know. 20 years from now, though, I'm not sure if China would be a superpower. I don't know if humans are still working in factories. I don't know if FDM is a technology that still exists. Well, I'm pretty sure FDM is still a technology that exists. We chose that when we started for a reason. But anyway. Question, where are you going to relocate to? We're not relocating. We're adding on. Boise will continue to be the mega farm because finding a large train factory with 50,000 amps of power on the side to run 3,000 machines up to 5,000 machines, you can't find very often in your city of choice. So we're adding on additional locations, and those additional locations, East Coast. I say Louisville, and it may be, but there's a lot of deciding and all of that kind of stuff of how we ultimately do that deployment. Can you guarantee that my model won't leak out? Suppose I'm developing modeling something a bit secret for a customer. If you're submitting it to us for mass production, the guarantee that your model won't leak out is the fact that we're still in business. Many people have this real fear that other people are trying to steal their ideas. No one cares about your idea. 9 out of 10 ideas fail. If we were in the business of stealing everybody's idea and manufacturing it as soon as they submit us a napkin sketch, we'd be out of business. A product has to be successful before it's worth stealing. So yeah, an ideation model no one cares about at that point. But the fact that we're a professional organization that's been in business for, in this iteration, over 5 years, and we still have clients and we're still paying bills means that we are not in a habit of stealing our clients' models. And as for teleport and that kind of stuff, all the models are locked down. Nobody gets access to the models in teleport and that kind of thing. But if you're designing or developing a product for a client, you probably shouldn't be on teleport since it's for final sales. So yeah, we take model protection very seriously. And the proof of that is the fact that we're still in business. Because if we were stealing everybody's models or losing everybody's models or leaking it out, we would have been like Stratasys and been sued by the US government 4 years ago for sending military models off to China to be printed. True story, by the way. This news on podcast like a year ago or so. But no, yeah, we keep it all going there. A follow-up to this that people always ask is like, Gabe, do you sign NDAs? It's like, yes, we sign NDAs. But interesting fact for you all to know, and this is just the statistics of it all. Any client who is not a Fortune 500 client who asks for an NDA has an extremely low probability of converting into a paying customer. Any RFQ that requires an NDA has a very high probability of not becoming a paying customer. They'll get a quote, they'll have us sign NDAs, they'll share their super secret model with us or whatever else it was for their spatula, and then they'll never purchase. So internally, if someone asks for an NDA, we do an evaluation of like, is this worth the effort? Because it historically generally is not, just statistically. If someone asks for an NDA, they almost never turn into an actual paying customer unless they're an established company that just is following process. Okay, next question. Is it possible to design and make a print-in-place plain bearing using PETG? If so, any design tricks, recommendations? Making the bearing larger, low RPM applications only. You design that bearing and send it. Don't use spherical ball bearings inside of a 3D printed bearing. Use cylinders or I'm trying to find a sheet of paper that I can actually hold up. The rollers on the outer side should be shaped something like this, if you can see that. So a flat bottom, pointed edges so that they fit inside of their carrier rails inside of the bearing, but they can print down on the print bed. Make sure that that is substantial enough to where it sticks to the print bed, and then symmetric there. But that is the roller around the outer side of the ring of the bearing. But yeah, you can make bearings from 3D printed parts easy. Do we have a video? Oh yeah, we did a video, and we made one with elliptical bearings inside of it, and that was wrong because they were able to rotate. The big thing is, when doing non-spherical bearings inside of the bearing, you need to make sure that it's constrained. And that's what this angle on the side does. It holds it in its same position, same orientation. With the elliptical one, they could fall sideways because they can rotate around that axis. So don't do that. Give them edges. Last question here. We did not get to all the questions on podcast this week, guys, because there's just a bunch of them. If you want a question to be responded to, do question : what your question is down in the comments, and we'll try to follow up on them next podcast, or as many of them as we can. This week is as many of them as we can week. Will the V3 API support add-on parts and otherwise match the features of Teleport? Where can we get documentation of all the new calls prior to release? The V3 API will be capable of adding in third-party parts. But if we release that endpoint, is indeterminate right now. Because we need an API user to actually have something in there using it. Because otherwise we're maintaining a feature that is not used. It's creating confusion in the documentation. Where can we get documentation of new calls prior to release? You'll get notification and documentation when it is released. That's how we do it. The API as a product category right now is lower priority for us because it's just lower utilized than other applications. So if you're a 3D model generation company or something like that, reach out to us and we're happy to talk to you about implementing the API in a more detailed kind of way. But at this moment, we maintain the API to the degree that we need it to be maintained. But API users have not hit the level of performance that we wanted to see right now. And we haven't been able to do the sales process of approaching certain target customers that we want to use the API on. But that's coming through there. Here, a little bit later this year, API will probably get a greater focus and get a whole new kind of baseline category around it, around like example projects and that kind of thing. But right now we have an example project. We have all the calls out there, and the API is stupidly simple. Here's the file. The API returns the cost of the file, and then you say, cool, order that, and then it orders that and it bills you. That's what it does, and it'll send tracking information back along whenever you make that call. That's the API. Very, very simple. Okay. That's all we got for today, guys. Yeah. If you have any questions down below, say question, whatever your question is, and I'll see you next week. And hopefully by then my voice and face is back. Have a good day, everybody.